These are the top 5 rarest Magic cards in existence. Period. Bar none, you will not find harder to acquire Magic cards than these 5. Let's get to a couple quick honorable mentions before we hit our official top 5. Our first honorable mention slot on this list is going to a series of cards made by Richard Garfield to commemorate important events in his life. They're referred to as celebration cards. Proposal is perhaps the most famous. It's 4 white for a sorcery that allowed Richard Garfield to propose to his first wife, Lily, in a game of Magic. The story goes that Richard actually played this card in a game of Magic to propose to Lily. They combined the decks as the card dictates, and that deck is still intact today. 9 of these were actually made, 5 on the sheet came out actually looking pretty good, and the art on the card has never been revealed at the request of Richard and Lily to keep their personal life private. There are a series of other commemorative cards in the same category: Richard's first child, his second child, and Richard's second marriage. The 2 cards referring to Richard's children have approximately 100 and change and 200 and change printings out there in the world, whereas nobody actually knows how many copies of Phoenix Heart exist. Obviously, these cards are purely celebratory and are not actually played in any Magic event or tournament, and really are more special to Richard and anybody who loves Magic history more than anything else, but they are a notable thing to shout out as our first honorable mention on the list. Honorable mention number 2, we're going to go with misprints. The Blue Hurricane is maybe the most famous misprint, but certainly not the rarest of all. Summer Magic was a really weird product that came out right after Revised. There's not very much of it out there, and it's very unclear about how much actually exists. However, a Blue Hurricane with a green mana symbol does exist as one of the rarest and most sought after cards from that set, as a very notable misprint. There's like a whole entire subcategory of misprints, of test prints, of weird stuff that exists that's worth crazy amounts of money that's out there. We're not going to use those in our top 5 here, but I did want to at least give a shout out to misprints and test prints on this list. That also would include artist proofs and any other weird stuff that doesn't have a Magic back. That's going to be our number 2 slot on the honorable mentions before we hit our top 5. Truthfully, I'll probably do an entire other video of just top 10 misprints and test prints in Magic history, because it's an entire other category. And finally, our last honorable mention is going to be Deb Thomas. This is a bizarre story, so check this out. Deb Thomas was the CFO of Wizards of the Coast. After being at the company for 24 years, she retired and was given this card. There are a total of 5 copies of this Deb Thomas card in existence, but because the card doesn't have an acorn and it technically has a Magic back, it's tournament legal, which is weird because obviously it doesn't interact with the game of Magic in a way that you would ever want to play it, but you could play this in a Legacy deck. This is available to you to be played in a Legacy deck, and there are only 5 of these in existence. It's going to be our number 3 honorable mention before we hit our actual top 5. Let's get it. All right, the number 5 slot's going to be shared between 2 cards because both of them kind of fit the exact same category, and both of them are absolute bangers when it comes to how sought after they actually are. The 2 cards in question are a very, very special printing of Brainstorm, as well as more recently this unbelievably cool Wizard of Bard's Dark Ritual. There are a total of 4 copies in existence of each of these cards. They were prizes from MagicCons over the last year, the Secret Lair Showdown series. If you won the tournament, you got 1 copy, and there are a total of 4, 1 playset in existence of both. The price on these things has gone pretty high, probably going between $40,000 and $100,000 per copy, and I have to imagine over time they will only go higher, as obviously you had to win something for this, but also Brainstorm and Dark Ritual are just banger Magic cards. They're great, they're very, very, very good. People want these for their decks. I'm not sure which of the 2 I would prefer to own. Probably Brainstorm, because I'm more of a blue player, but I just think they're both unbelievably cool, and these are high on that bucket list of cards to own someday, which I can't imagine I'll ever own one. Coming in at number 4 on the list, we've got Shichifukujin Dragon. Now, this is one of those weird cards that there is exactly 1 copy in existence. It's an actual 1 of 1. It's a terrible Magic card. 6 mana, 3 red for a dragon, comes into play with 7+1/+1 counters on it. For 3, you can remove 2+1/+1 counters on it to put 3+1/+1 counters on it. Play this ability as a sorcery. I mean, if you have infinite red mana, this thing gets infinitely big, but it does die to Doomblade. Anyway, this card is not actually rare because it's good. This card's rare because there's only exactly 1. The reason is because this card was made as a celebratory card to celebrate the opening of the Duelist International Convocation Tournament Center, basically Tokyo, Japan's Magic Tournament Center. The additional copies of this card that were made were all destroyed, and the 1 copy was on display in that tournament center for a long time. That center has since closed, and this card has been moved to a secure location, but to this day there is still only 1 copy of this dragon in the world, which as a very significant piece of Magic history, I think we can characterize as priceless. All right, let's get to number 3. So in 1996, Tom Chanfang won the World Championship of Magic the Gathering. And to celebrate that win, Wizards made Tom a 1 of 1 1996 World Champion Magic card. 1996 World Champion reads, Wooburg to cast for a legend. It's a star, cannot be the target of spells or abilities. World Champion has power and toughness each equal to life total of target opponent. You can pay 0, discard your hand, search your library for 1996 World Champion, reveal it to all players, shuffle your library, and put it on top. Use this ability only at the beginning of your upkeep and only if this card is in your library. Tom actually sold this card a couple years after he won it, but it's especially important because you had to win the World Championship to even get this card, so I think it jumps way above all the other stuff that's behind it on the list. He sold it for like 20 grand. You'll see fake listings pop up online sometimes for like $200,000, $300,000, but obviously there's a one-of-one copy of this card, so I don't think it actually ever does change hands. Some collector has this in a vault somewhere, and it's, you know, one of Magic's 3 rarest cards ever. All right, let's get to the top 2. Ranking number 2 and number 1 is really hard to do, and you guys probably know what the top 2 are. I elected to go with a PSA 10 Alpha Black Lotus as number 2 on the list. Black Lotus is without a doubt Magic's most iconic and sought-after Magic card. And in 1993, when Magic was first printed, 1,100 copies of each rare were made, approximately, which means that, 30 plus years ago, there were 1,100 copies of this version of Lotus out there. Of the 100 or so that have been submitted to PSA for grading, only 6 have ever come back as a perfect 10. And while, like, 1996 World Champion is certainly rarer, I think there's a little more demand for a perfect 10 out of 10 Black Lotus from Alpha. Literally every single rich person that has ever wanted to own a Magic card wants to own this Magic card in the condition I'm talking about. And earlier this year in 2024, one of them sold for over $3 million, breaking the record for the most expensive Magic card transaction ever for a single card. Love it or hate it, the desirability of an Alpha Black Lotus is unmatched. That being said, I chose to make it number 2 on this list because of the hype surrounding number 1. You guys already know what it is. Let's talk about it. The single rarest Magic card in the history of Magic the Gathering is the one-of-one ring purchased by Post Malone last year for $2.3 or $5 or $6 million, like $2.5 million or something like that. This was a brilliant Willy Wonka-style promo to sell packs of Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond Magic cards. We all bought a lot of collector packs hoping to open this ring. It was opened by a collector outside of the US and then purchased by Post Malone for the crazy amount of money that I mentioned. The One Ring is extremely powerful. It's a really good card that most people are playing in kind of every format that you can, and there's only a single copy of it available. Now, it's notable that Post also has another one-of-one version of Zur the Enchanter that Wizards gave him as a gift, and I could have put that on the list as well, but they've made a secret lair version of this card you can get, and I kind of think the other celebration cards on this list are more historically relevant, plus Posty gets his name all over the number 1 slot on this list already. We are yet to see Wizards run another one-of-one promo. You have to think maybe like the Infinity Gauntlet will be a one-of-one promo or something when they do the Marvel set, but right now, this is the rarest, most single sought-after piece of Magic that exists in the world as the number 1 rarest Magic card of all time. Do you guys agree, disagree? Let me know. I'm gonna probably do that top 10 rarities and misprints list pretty soon here because there's so many cool, weird cards to talk about. But that's my list. Thanks for watching.